Well, before I start talking, I'd like to invite us all to bring our attention to the present moment. And maybe just close your eyes. And just be aware of the sounds in the room. And the breathing. Nothing needs to be different from how it is. But just noticing how it is. The breathing. And sensations in the body. Again, not trying to control them or change them, but just noticing how it is. In the face, in the throat, shoulders, the chest, the belly, the pelvis, the legs, the feet, sensation of the feet touching the floor, the back, sensation of the back touching the back of the chair, the head, and noticing the awareing presence that's beholding it all, the space in which it's happening. And then maybe open your eyes and just notice the visual sensations of this moment, the colors and shapes, movements, whatever is being seen, not trying to grasp it with the eyes or understand it, but just being aware of it as color and shape. I titled this talk, Being Just This Moment, because being just this moment is the gateless gate. It is the key to liberation. And actually, we can't not be this moment. There's only this moment. That's what we are. That's what is. There's really no way out of this moment. But because of our ability to think in complex ways and our conditioning, we tend to think of ourselves and even sense ourselves at times as being separate from this moment, as being separate from life, separate from the world, separate from other people. We've learned to think of ourselves as a separate unit of consciousness, a separate fragment in a world of fragments. And we've learned to think of ourselves as encapsulated inside a separate body, looking out at a kind of alien world out there. And that is really our human suffering, that deeply conditioned sense of separation. Because when we think of ourselves and sense ourselves as a separate fragment, by definition, we're incomplete. So we're always feeling a sense of lack, or maybe not always feeling it, but it may disappear for moments, but it's a pervasive thing that keeps coming back, a sense of lack and incompleteness. And there's also, when we're identified as a separate fragment, a fear of death, a fear of this separate fragment being wiped out, a fear of annihilation. And the fear of death is really very much like the fear that people used to have that if they sailed out into the ocean, they might sail off the edge of the earth. It's based on a false picture of what's going on here. And when we bring attention to the present moment, something shifts. We're no longer in the map world, the conceptual world of thought. And when we bring attention to the present moment, we can actually sense how this living reality actually is. Because when we're in the world of concepts and thoughts, we have these words like the body, or the bird song, or the tree, and the words make it seem like we're talking about separate, discrete, solid things. But when we actually listen to bird song, or when we actually feel into the body on the level of sensation and energy, we don't find solidity, and we don't find something that's discrete and separate from everything else. We find fluidity, and we find that we are inseparable from the so-called environment around us. We can't even really find a boundary where inside of me turns into outside of me. I invite you to try this. Just look right now with awareness and see if you can actually find a place where inside turns into outside. We can think of a place, but when we actually look for it, it really isn't there. If you just feel into the sensation where the body meets the chair, is there any place in that sensation where the body ends and the chair begins? It's one whole undivided happening, isn't it? But with the words, it's the body and the chair, two separate things. And when we bring attention to the present moment, we can also begin to sense the awareness, the awareing presence that's beholding it all. The spaciousness that is here now. And when we go deeply into any sensation, like a sensation in the body, with awareness, we find that At the core of it, there's nothing. It's empty. Space. And when we look for the me, the supposed separate self that we've learned to think that we are, because we've been conditioned since very, very early in life, you are Joan, you are a girl, you are an American, you are this kind of person and that kind of person. But when we actually look for this me that we think is steering our ship through life and that we think is what we are, can we find it? Is it really there? We can find, when we look for the me, we can find thoughts, we can find mental images, we can find memories, we can find stories. But where in all that is me? And when we watch as choices and decisions unfold in real time, when we actually just watch as we're making a big decision or even a little decision like whether to stand up after we've been sitting down, we discover that there's really no one at the helm. The urges are coming, the thoughts are coming, the actions are coming. It's all one whole happening, one whole living reality. We could say that consciousness, in a way, is the dividing up of unicity, the dividing up of wholeness into apparent multiplicity. And then thought further divides and reifies and solidifies and abstracts and draws boundary lines. But we can also notice that consciousness is seamless, that although there's all this multiplicity, apparent multiplicity, all these different colors and shapes and forms, it's also one whole seamless happening. It's all showing up together as like one moving picture. And we can sense that the awareness, the awareing presence, is not divided in any way, that it's not encapsulated, that it doesn't have any boundaries, that it's not inside the body, that that's an idea that we've learned to think. And of course, it's not just a thought, because it's also so that the conditioning is very deep, so it's also how we experience ourselves, how we carry ourselves, how we move in the world. As I see it, waking up is not some big, dramatic, explosive event. I mean, some people do have big, explosive events, but to me, waking up, it's immediate in the sense that it's always now. It only happens now. But it's also a process that unfolds in time. And in my experience, there's no end to that process. It's a moment to moment, we could say, process of noticing that sense of separation when it arises. Noticing, oh, I'm feeling defensive, and being interested in that. What am I defending? Or I'm upset by what some politician is saying on TV. What what is that upset really about? What is the anger or the fear? What is really going on there? I notice it's something about the universe shouldn't be this way. It's a kind of deep fear that it's not the way I see it. It's not the way I want it to be. So when these things come up, it's really just being curious about them, being interested in them, and then exploring them on the level of just feeling them as energy and sensation in the body, and also seeing the thoughts. And in doing that, there's a waking up from that kind of spell, that entrancement. In separation. And we begin to see that these things are not personal. It's not my personal problem. The mind is always like, oh my God, I was defensive. That means I'm not really enlightened, I'm a loser, I have failed, I've slipped, blah, 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 blah. But just to see that that's just a thought. It's not really a personal happening. What I mean by that is that it's a happening of the whole universe. It's a happening of life itself. It's a movement of some kind of conditioned pattern that's going on in the universe. And as we begin to realize that, there's naturally compassion for ourselves and for other people when we behave in mean-spirited ways and when other people behave in mean-spirited ways, because we begin to see that none of us are really in control of this whole thing. It's happening by itself. And it's so much more valuable to really explore this and discover this directly than to just pick it up as a belief system or a philosophy. I mean, it's relatively easy to sort of understand intellectually that everything is one whole happening, or there's no self, or whatever. We can kind of get that, maybe, but or we don't get it, and then we're like, why can't I see that there's no self? Everybody else seems to see it, but I still feel like a self, and why can't I get rid of myself? I mean, what do you mean there's no self? It's me, I'm here. So instead, to just really explore it directly by sensing and awareing it, seeing it. And then something shifts, and it doesn't shift forever after, at least not in my experience. It shifts now. But we can also see that even the delusion, even the confusion at all, it's all part of this whole living reality. And it's not personal, and this vast awareing space includes it all. And that awareness is really our true nature. It's what, if you really look at what we're referring to when we say I, of course the mind thinks, oh, I'm referring to me, Joan Tollifson, this person. But that was all learned. I had to learn my name and all of that. But if we really look deeper than that, what do I actually mean when I say I? Aren't we referring to this awareing presence, which we cannot doubt? We cannot doubt being here. We cannot doubt being aware. We cannot doubt being here now. And we can't doubt this present happening either. We can doubt any interpretation of it. We can doubt whether it's an illusion or a dream or atoms and molecules or pure consciousness or blippity bloop, but we can't doubt that something is showing up here. Something is going on. There's experiencing here. There's sensations. Visual sensations, auditory sensations, somatic sensations. There's experiencing. And if we look, we can't really find a boundary between awareness and this present happening, this experiencing. Can you find a place where the breathing ends and awareness begins? So we have these different words, but the words can so easily confuse us because they always give us the sense that we're talking about separate, discrete, different things. And the words are helpful. They point to different aspects of this living reality, and they tune us into or wake us up to different aspects of it. So it's not like we're trying to get rid of words or we're going to stop using words or give up thinking or anything like that, but to begin to see the difference between the map world created by thinking and the direct experiencing of sensations and energy, just the colors and shapes, the sounds, the sense of the body meeting the chair. It's very counterintuitive that just being this moment is transformative. And we are conditioned to think that we have to do something, we have to manipulate it, we have to fix it, we have to get something, we have to attain something, we have to get rid of something, we have to do something. But when we actually just allow this moment to be as it is, and the words are never quite right, but when we're just being this moment without resisting anything that's here, without grasping at something that's not here, but just letting it be as it is, well, I don't want to say too much, but something amazing happens. I mean, I say that, and then people think, "Oh God, nothing amazing happened to me, so I must not be." But play with that, because it is. And allowing everything to be as it is, being just this moment, doesn't mean that we don't go to the hospital if we're having a heart attack, or we can't do anything to address racism or sexism, or that we don't do anything about climate change. It doesn't mean just being vegetating on the couch for the rest of your life. In fact, intelligent action comes out of this kind of open, awareing presence. A very different kind of action arises out of this awareing presence than the kind of action that comes out of our conditioned, habitual patterns of thinking and acting. And this can be, say we're trying to quit smoking, and we notice that we have like two parts of ourselves. There's the me that wants to smoke, and there's the me that wants to quit. And they seem to be at war with each other. And so maybe it's possible just to be interested in smoking. What is the urge like when I want a cigarette? Or you can apply this to something else, whatever it might be, overeating or whatever. What is that urge? What does it feel like in the body? And is it possible maybe just to take 1 minute or 5 minutes just to feel that urge before I act on it? and just really explore it and see, what is this? What does it actually feel like, this urge? And it kind of feels like, I have to have this thing, whatever it is. But what is it like if I don't have it? And then if I do end up lighting up, what is that like? What does it feel like to take the cigarette out of the package? What is it like to inhale the smoke or eat the apple or the cake or whatever it is? Just really exploring it instead of having some idea that we superimpose on it, like smoking is bad, I shouldn't be smoking, I have to stop, or the opposite. Nisargadatta smoked, so it can't be a problem. Instead of either one of those, instead of applying an ideology, just really openly exploring, what is this? What is this feeling of abandonment or defensiveness or irritation or whatever comes up? And it's not about coming up with some answer like it's all consciousness. I mean, it's true. There's nothing, we don't have any experience outside of consciousness. I mean, that's true. But to really, not to settle for those answers, but to really be awareness. We are awareness. Be aware. Be open. And that openness, that awareing presence is love, it is joy, it is peace. And in that, we see God, we see the beloved everywhere. We see that everything is the holy reality. Everything is our own self. Everything is worthy of attention. Everything is sacred. And we see beauty. The beauty is not in the object. The beauty is in the seeing. When we're really seeing something, we can see beauty in a crumpled Kleenex or a piece of trash blowing down the street. We can see beauty in a parking lot or a construction site. We can enjoy just the simple sounds of whatever the fan, whatever the humming noise is, just the simplicity of what's here. It's amazing happening. We don't really know what it is. I mean, we have all these words like, it's subatomic particles or it's consciousness or it's blippity bloop, but really, we don't know what this is. No word is it. The word water is not water, and that seems really obvious when we're talking about water, but the word awareness is not awareness, and we don't know what this is, but this amazing happening that includes the imagination and movies and art and worlds within worlds within worlds, it would seem. And it's not about getting rid of any of it or excluding any of it, but really including it all, opening to it all. So maybe I've said enough. Maybe I'll take some questions if anyone has anything. And there's a microphone, so please wait for the microphone. And so everybody has a chance who wants to speak. Please try to keep your questions kind of brief and concise, and then I'll see what comes out.
See, the most defining thing of one body being separate from another body is hunger. Hunger is not a thought. And the hunger makes you to eat the other. Again, duality is built in predator-prey struggles. So where does oneness stay there? One doesn't eat oneself. One eats other. Thank you.
Is there a question in there? I'm not sure.
Where is the oneness?
Where is the oneness?
In the
Well,
predator-prey.
okay, well, the predator and prey are actually one whole happening, aren't they? I mean, if you look at the whole ecological system, predator and prey, you know, when they maintain each other. You know, the predators keep the prey in the right numbers, and so that the whole system maintains itself. They're actually all one whole happening. And I don't know that I mean, we don't know what other animals are experiencing, but I don't know that they're experiencing anger in those moments. We don't really know, but hunger maybe, yes. Hunger. Okay.
Thank you. I have a question from your understanding. What's the relation between consciousness or awareness and experience? And do you think from your experience, does experience need an object, whatever object means? So the first question maybe again is, from your understanding, what's the relation between consciousness and experience?
Okay. And I want to go back to you just for a moment, the other question, which is, I very much appreciated what Almas was saying in his talk last night about duality and non-duality, and you know, I like the Zen saying, not one, not two, or as Dogen put it, leaping clear of the many and the one. So I think oneness or unicity to me doesn't mean a denial of this apparent multiplicity or the experience of being a person, because there is an experience of being a person that isn't going to go away unless you're in some, I mean, it can go away in a meditative moment or something, but functionally there is a knowingness of being a person and so on. So, but now, okay, what is the difference between consciousness? What is
not the difference?
Okay.
It's for me more the relation between consciousness or awareness, however you want to,
Okay.
name it and call it, and
experiencing? Okay. Well, what I notice is that we all use these words in different ways. Sometimes I use the same words in different ways, and other people use them differently. So, the way I use consciousness, to me, I use consciousness sort of for the movie of waking life, as I call it, this appearance. And I use awareness, actually I use awareness in different ways. Sometimes as that which beholds consciousness, and sometimes when I speak of being aware of the feeling in my foot, I'm using awareness in a somewhat different way as kind of the light of attention, the light that reveals things. But see, as soon as we start doing this, we're sort of dividing everything up again, and it feels mental to me. Like, I'm wondering, where is the question coming from?
Maybe the question was wrong. My question was not what's the difference in your understanding between awareness and consciousness, because I know that everybody is, calling it differently. My question was, when I use your definition, what's the relation between awareness and experience? from your understanding?
Well, let's investigate. I mean, there is experiencing here right now, and there is an awareing of this experiencing. We're using words, and that makes it seem like two different things, experiencing and awareing of experiencing, or awareness beholding experiencing, or whatever. But they're both here, right? There's experiencing, and there's awareness.
That experience itself needs objects or sensation, or more objects? Because I experience X or Y. I experience this or that. I experience this feeling or not. Is there
Right.
experience without?
Experience seems always to have, in that sense, an object, although the object and the subject are only divided up conceptually. They're really, you can't find a boundary. But we could say that awareness is what, like in deep sleep, there's no experience. Some people say there is an experience in deep sleep, but I would question whether that's deep sleep. I don't know. But something remains, and we could call that awareness. What is behind the question, though? Can you say? We don't have much time, so a couple minutes, but.
Do you want to answer?
No, I don't have an answer. I have a question. Did you want to stay with her, though?
Well, I don't feel like we really got to the heart of it, but go ahead, Susan, and we only have like 2 minutes or something. 1 minute, whatever.
Well,
Different watches have different times. Okay.
is it acceptable to speak even though it may be very... Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to speak about a personal experience, and which I'm still integrating, and see if perhaps you could reflect or help some with it. In a workshop yesterday, it has to do with integrating the perspective of being, I guess you would call it, because I was entering the space of undifferentiated being, and then we were asked to investigate essentially how or where there is a gap in our lives between what we know and how we behave, you might say. Because there's always residual conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kept being led deep. Well, what was the story that went with that in your childhood? Go deeper and deeper, and I entered really the kind of the primal experience of the infant separating from its mother, and it was of terror and pain, and it was very intense terror and pain inside that experience of the separated infant self.
We need to really move along here because they're giving me signs in the back of the room and stuff.
Excuse me?
They're giving me signs in the back of the room,
sorry.
so just...
So that's the inside of the experience of separation, and then right over next to it is the undifferentiated being. I'm still kind of wobbling between those two poles of experience. Do you understand? That the personal experience can sometimes feel very separate. Anger feels separating, pain feels separating.
So the thing is just to explore that, like, yes, anger does feel separating. That's what it's about. It's very much about the separate self and being right and being angry at something out there. But so really just then explore, it's interesting to just explore the anger, like what is it, if we just go into anger in the body as energy and sensation, there isn't that division, something shifts, and also just really inquiring into what is that anger, what's it about, what am I defending, what am I protecting, etc. I know this isn't, we really need to end, so we could go on, but I feel like I must be good. So,
It's all right,
yeah,
we'll talk.
yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone.